My game named Cube Shoot is a two-dimensional platformer shoot 'em up that consists of a blue cube with a gun that the player has to control in order to survive in an arena for a certain amount of time, whilst hordes of randomly spawning red cubes try to kill you. The player can gain XP from killing enemies or finding XP packs that spawn as a random drop. Originally, I wanted to have the level up sequence pause the game and display 3 upgrades on screen, which the player can choose from. This gives the player some choice on what weapon builds they want to adopt, but since the variety of upgrades was so limited, this made giving the player a choice unnecessary. Instead, the platformer aspects of the game require the player to strategically traverse the environment whilst avoiding enemies in a way that supports the player's current upgrades. One of the main challenges that come with game development is the CPU and GPU performance issues, and I understood this issue would impact my game the most as it relies on constant creation of new objects. Therefore, the first ever code I worked on for my game was how many enemies spawned within the environment before lag was evident. Basically, how my program works is that it will check if a second has passed in the game, which then after that it will check if the enemy amount in the level is less than the maximum enemy amount. If that is true, then it will roll a random number from 0 to 4, which will dictate what side of the arena those enemies will spawn at. Then after that, it will also do a more complicated random range calculation, which randomly generates what coordinate the enemies will spawn in on that side. And then after that, it would add 1 to the enemy amount count so that it will update the enemy amount every time one spawns. A challenge that arose due to the brief planning process with the game was enemy movement. I already knew in development that the enemies would have to be completely separated from interacting with the environment, since I didn't want to waste time in making an entire pathfinding system. My first attempt of creating an AI was completely broken, as the enemies would just get to the center of the level, not even acknowledging the player. Looking for advice from Unity veterans on the Unity forums, I found code that made objects act like guidance missiles instead of a straight line projectile, which gave the player a chance to mislead enemies, which led to an overall improved experience. Although the enemy variety was harshly limited, and if I were to attempt this task again, I would focus on creating different enemy behaviors.